folks, Teacher Luis again, this time with the second part of modal verbs. So let's see. So this time we're going to talk about 3 more modal verbs. They are should, must, and would. So let's start with should. So we use should when we are giving advice, when we are giving opinion, and when we are talking about expectations. So let's see how it works. So, giving advice. For example, let's suppose we see our friend and our friend is like pale, you know, our friend looks like sick, okay? And our friend is like skinny. So we say to our friend, hey, you should go to the doctor, okay? It's an advice we are giving to him. You should go to the doctor, okay? The second use for should is when we are giving opinion. For example, when I say, I think, is my opinion, I think nurses should earn more money because nurses, you know, work too much. They work 12 hours a day and they work in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and even overnight. So I think nurses should earn more money. It's my opinion. And the last use is for expectation. For example, let's suppose Mary studies at English college. Mary has classes every day from 9 to 12 p.m. Okay? So let's suppose the best friend of Mary, let's say Catherine goes to Mary's house at 11:30 in the morning. Of course, Mary is not in her house. She is at English college studying English because she studies until 12. So, Mary's mother tells Catherine, okay, Catherine, Mary should be here by 12:30. So this is the expectation because Mary studies from 9 to 12. So she's supposed to be at home at 12:30. This is the expectation. So Mary's mom tells Catherine, Mary should be here by 12:30. Okay? So these are the uses for should. Again, when we're talking about giving advice, giving opinion, and expectations. Let's move on must. We use must when we talk about strong obligation, necessity, logical conclusion, and in a negative way, mustn't, when we talk about prohibition. Okay? So let's see, for example, when we're talking about strong obligation, we must respect the law. This is an obligation we have. We must respect the law. We have the obligation to respect the law. Okay? If we don't respect the law, maybe we go to jail. Okay? So we must, as an obligation, respect the law. The next use about a must is necessity. Okay? What is a necessity for us? For example, we must drink water. Okay? We need water to live. If we don't drink water, we die. Water in any way, okay? Could be a glass of juice, could be soda, whatever it is. Anyway, that is water, okay? So we must drink water, okay? So this is a necessity we have. The next use for must is logical conclusion. What is a logical conclusion? Let's suppose, for example, John has a mansion, John has a Ferrari, John has a Maserati, John has a helicopter, and John has a plane. So, what is the logical conclusion? John must be rich, right? To have all the things, John must be rich, okay? And the last use for must in a negative way, this is when we're talking about prohibition, okay? So, for example, the speed limit on the road is 80 kilometers per hour. So, we mustn't run faster than 80 kilometers per hour, okay? It's a prohibition. We mustn't run faster than 80 kilometers per hour. If we run faster than 80 kilometers per hour, the police gets us and gives us a ticket. We have to pay a ticket, a fine, okay? So, we mustn't run faster than 80 kilometers per hour. So, these are the uses for must. Again, strong obligation, necessity, logical conclusion, and prohibition in a negative way. Now, let's go all the way to would. We use would when we talk about past behavior, when we talk about very polite requests. This is for British people who most of the time use would. When we talk about the second conditional and when we talk about the third conditional. So let's see the examples. For example, talking about past behavior, something we did in the past. So when we were kids, when we were little, we would play football, okay, in the neighborhood. Now we don't do it anymore. But when we were kids, we would play football, okay? So this is a past behavior. Now, talking about very polite request. This is for British people, for people from the UK. So they say, would you help me, please? Remember, we can also use as a polite request, could you help me, please? But British people, they are more polite, you know, and they say, would you help me, please? Okay, the next use for would is when we're talking about the second conditional, you know? The second conditional is when we talk about something that is imaginary. So, for example, I say, if I got a plane, can you imagine that? If I got a plane, I don't have a plane, you know? I'm not rich enough to have a plane, maybe in the future, okay? But I say, as something imaginary, if I got a plane, I would travel to the USA, okay? This sentence, I can tell it the other way around. I mean, I can say, I would travel to the USA if I got a plane, okay? So this is the second conditional, when something is imaginary. In this second conditional, in the if clause, we use the past tense, okay, if I got. And in the result clause, I say I would travel, okay, I would do it, I would travel to the USA. If I got a plane, I would travel to the USA. And the third conditional is the conditional in the past, okay? The third conditional is past conditional. For example, in my case, I am not a doctor, I am a teacher, you know? But then I say, if I had studied medicine, I didn't study medicine, but let's suppose I say, if I had studied medicine, I would have been a great doctor, okay? But I didn't study medicine, so I am not a doctor. So this is the third conditional, the past conditional. If I had studied medicine, I would have been a great doctor. I can say that the other way around. I would have been a great doctor if I had studied medicine. In the if clause, I use the past perfect. If I had studied, past perfect. And in the result clause, I use present perfect. I would have been, present perfect, you see? If I had studied medicine, I would have been a great doctor. Or, I would have been a great doctor if I had studied medicine. Okay, very good. So these are the other three modal auxiliaries or modal verbs, okay? Should, must, and would. Okay, so as you can see, modal auxiliaries or modal verbs have different uses. In the last class, we saw can, could, may, and might. Now we saw these should, must, and would. Every one of them have different uses, and sometimes we can use one of them for two purposes, okay? So they are modal verbs. They modify the verbs, okay, and change the sense of the sentences. These are modal verbs. So guys, it was a pleasure teaching you. I hope this is useful for you. And as usual, see you around, my friends. Later.